Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing a contentious debate. Today we'll be speaking about a segment in the society that has enormous importance and has been given enormous importance, particularly since President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi assumed office. Since the President assumed office, he has been always keen on empowering different segments of the society, particularly women, youth, people with special need. Today we'll be speaking about empowering youth. Part of that is the importance given to youth as investing in human calibers, in human resources, one of Egypt's richness. And definitely that has been put in the forefront of our leadership. The head of state has put youth on top of his priorities, as I said, and had held a monthly youth conference in one of the country's governorates. Four youth conferences have been held. One was World Youth Conference, the other was Africa, and many other youth conferences, local ones, have been already held. The big concern given to youth has obviously been seen in the political and parliamentary life in Egypt, as many youth have been elected as members of the Senate Council, particularly this Senate, while others are currently competing for seats in the parliament. We'll be speaking about this in our episode tonight. Before we delve into our discussion, first let's have the top stories of the day. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held talks with visiting head of Sudan's Sovereign Council, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, in Cairo on Tuesday. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi said President al-Sisi hailed historical ties and bind peoples of the two Nile Valley countries, as well as their mutual interests. The head of state reiterated that the strategic stance towards stability and security of Sudan is unchanged, expressing support for the will and choice of the political leadership in Sudan. Also, the president expressed his keenness to continue coordination with Sudan in all fields, including joint developmental projects such as the electrical linkage projects and railways. For his part, al-Burhan hailed historical ties with Egypt and efforts to strengthen joint cooperation. He expressed his willingness to coordinate in all areas of mutual interests. During the meeting, al-Burhan reviewed developments in Sudan and the latest signing of a peace deal in Juba with a number of Sudanese armed movements. The meeting was attended by Minister of Power and Electricity, the General Intelligence Chief, and the Egyptian ambassador to Sudan. And our next top story of the day, the Ministers of Water Resources and Foreign Affairs met with their counterparts from Sudan and Ethiopia on Tuesday. The meeting was called by South Africa, the current chair of the African Union, to restart negotiations over the so-called Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Minister of Water Resources Mohammed expressed Cairo's readiness to hold serious negotiations to reach a fair and balanced deal that addresses interests of the three countries. The meeting comes in line with the outcome of the African Union's meeting and the six-way meeting of the Ministers of Water Resources and Foreign Affairs last August. The meetings agreed that the three countries would hold negotiations to reach a binding legal deal over filling and operating the dam. Right, before we start on with our discussion, let's first have a quick report on our topic. And President al-Sisi asserts state support to youth. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has expressed appreciation to Egypt's promising youth who represent the country's real power in its sacred battle for existence and construction, and asserted that by youth willpower, the state goes through challenges. The president has affirmed that the country is always and eternally willing to support its youth to achieve their dreams and hopes for the future. Since President al-Sisi has taken office in 2014, the government has held almost a dozen of national youth conferences. Each was held in a different governorate to ensure the engagement of youth across the country. The head of state also launched in 2017 the World Youth Forum, of which 3 editions took place. The forums consisted of around 9 parallel sessions and workshops offering a platform for youth from around the globe to share their success stories, experience and research projects, and hold dialogue with panelists who are experts in various fields and international officials. During his meeting with young investors and businessmen in May 2014, he stressed the need to have within the ministry's governments, agencies and governorate a considerable number of young people who have the ability to give and work. Al-Sisi pledged to train those young people in Nasser Military Academy, which the academy has already begun to implement in training in 2014 by organizing courses on the topic of national strategy and national security, in which large numbers of young people working in the government bodies participated. Then the decision of the then Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab was issued to authorize the ministers to choose their assistants. Indeed, many ministries have begun to implement the decision, and the Ministry of Housing, Utilities and Urban Communities is considered the first to implement a resolution, where the then Minister of Housing at the time, Mustafa Madbouli, issued the first interministerial decision to appoint 4 assistants for him, in each body separately, so appointing assistants for urban planning, urban communities and facilities. As political leadership believes in the competence and ability of youth generation to assume leadership positions and build the Egyptian state, the governor's reshuffle in 2019 included actual representations of youth, which confirms undoubtedly that empowerment has come true and not a slogan.
Right, welcome back, and to our topic. Let me welcome a distinguished guest, one who is in the new Senate. And let me say congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
Mr. Mohammed Farid, member of the Senate and member of the Coordination Committee of Parties, Youth Leaders and Politicians. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And no, before we go to the Senate and all this, let me take here, how do you view the keenness of our leadership for empowering youth, and how was that reflected in deeds rather than words?
Well, you know, Egypt is a young nation. 62, almost 62% of the populations are youth. So this is either a bless, you know, or a problem. We saw over the past few years, you know, how the youth were the major power that moves the nation. We saw it when they took the street in March, you know, back in 2011, in 2013, you know. And since President Sisi came to power and were elected by majority of youth too, he was aware of this thing, and he tried to utilize this enormous power of youth, you know, to use it in building the nation and making better future for them and for the upcoming generations. So he started directly, you know, by trying to improve the situation, economic situation. We saw mega projects. These mega projects created thousands and thousands of jobs, and this is one of the major issues for youth, because having a high rate of unemployment in a country in transition where the majority of the population is youth is really a dangerous thing. So he tackled this issue directly by starting all these mega projects. We saw all these New Suez Canal, all the road network, the housing projects, all these economic development projects that took place and created thousands of jobs. Nevertheless, also, there was the several initiatives when it comes to financing the small and medium-sized enterprises for youth also, who are owned by youth as de facto, you know, as a percentage. So this is also empowering the youth. After that, there was the initiative, the presidential initiative for the PLP, the Presidential Leadership Program, where there was a great job, you know, in grooming and preparing and educating young people to assume leadership positions in the state. And frankly speaking, and I know many of them, They are one of the really promising, young guys. You see, they are very qualified. They are very sharp and smart, and the investment being put in them, to be able to take the lead, in order to improve the bureaucratic system here in Egypt. After that, there was, of course, or parallel to that, there was the youth conferences. There was 7 or 8 youth conferences, national.
2 international
and 2 World Youth Forums,
yes.
and 1 African Youth Forum. And that was amazing, getting all these young people from all over the world, talking together, sharing experience, sharing knowledge, talking about challenges that facing them, or broadly, in different aspects. This also helped a lot, giving the exposure for the young people, giving them the opportunity to network with their peers, globally. So this is also one of the major issues that help endorsing and enhancing the peace itself, because meeting people from
it's cross-culture.
Exactly. So this was also one of the amazing projects that the president had launched. Finally, when it comes to the political aspect, currently we are in the Senate. There are 12 Senate members from the CCPYP, the Coordinating Committee for Party Youth and Politicians, and though 5 of us were elected, the president had appointed several of us. So this gives you how important the president sees the youth, and how he take care about that. Also, he appointed 20 women in the appointee list, and this also shows you how the president sees the importance of youth and women empowerment. Also for the other chamber, the House of Representatives, we have 28 candidates, all of them youth, running, and also on the list, and there are 6 on the single mandate.
And we don't know yet who will be appointed after that. We'll see.
We don't know, but these are the people running now for the elections, and I hope at a pretty sure many of them will get elected.
Because we know that the parliament, or 25% of the parliament, should be women.
True.
And we are dreaming of more than that, by the way.
You will get it.
Let me hear speak about, yes, you said these were the steps that were taken by the president ever since he assumed office, and it was very much obvious. 1 year for women, 1 year for youth named for them, and more given to more mandatories been given to youth, more mandatories have been given to women, and this. From your point of view, how do you view the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda that goes in? How is the vision of empowering those segments of the society goes in parallel to this vision, and is a matter that is inevitable?
This is a fact, all the 17 SDGs that Egypt had signed, and translated into the 2030 Egypt strategic vision. It's built upon the youth empowerment and women empowerment. All these goals would never be able to be achieved without empowering the youth and putting them, in the proper place to be able to achieve it. Name whatever goal you would like to think about, and you'll definitely find that the only way to achieve it is through youth, and empowering them. One of the major aspects in the Egypt 2030 Egypt 2030 strategic plan is to achieve first to achieve better quality of life for the population. Second is to achieve the geographical and regional justice, and this is really important because definitely achieving these two goals will help more empowerment for the youth and women. For example, starting by the regional and geographical justice, which means enhancing the standards of living for people in the rural areas and in the different regions of the country. This will reduce, the inter-country migration, and this will create more opportunities for youth.
Internal migration from villages into urban areas to big cities, yes.
And will reduce the amount of unplanned urbanization, which eats a lot of the available resources. So in all ways, you see youth is the major factor in achieving these goals.
Very much indeed. Let me here you spoke about three important issues that have been all very obvious in steps taken to empower youth. You spoke about the PLP program, you spoke about the CYP, the
CCPYP. It's a bit long,
Yes, the CCPYP right here. And you spoke about the conferences that have been taking place. So let me here take first the PLP program and the calibers and the choices in which those calibers were chosen, why those, and how did the program see potentials of those calibers, how did they prepare them? And
well, I'm not member of the PLP, but I know many of them and I've been reading about this program, and
yes.
I met many of them, and again, they are really highly skilled calibers. Thousands of young people had been applying to this program, and there were clear criteria, of course, for selection, and they were picked, the highest of people owning skill sets there, And there was a lot of educational programs throughout the National Training Academy. And seeing them after graduation, and see how they develop the skills they already have, and putting them in leadership positions, in the state. Many of the deputy of governors, and actually we are proud to have 6 of our CCPYP fellow colleagues are deputy governors, is on one level, and this helped a lot, in proceeding faster, and achieving more efficiency when it comes to the local management, and tweaking a little bit the sagging bureaucracy in these areas. Many of them are assistants and deputies for many ministers, and others who are assuming positions in the ministry's offices, and if you see how these young people work and operate, and how creative they are, and how brilliant they do the jobs, and with amazing passion, you find hope, and you find a lot of positive energy there, and you see how they trying to achieve their goals of improving the bureaucratic system.
Youth, which means enthusiasm, which means innovation, which means out-of-the-box solutions, right?
True.
Yes. Yes. Speaking about the CCPYP and member of the coordination committees of parties, youth leaders and politicians, and this committee has been playing a big role for some times. Let me here take, as you are yourself member of that committee, and you've been working for the past couple of years. Let me know more about this committee. Let me know more about how did you act, what were the ambitions that you all aspired for, and what did you reach now?
Okay.
I can see what did you reach now. Anyway.
And
Please.
still more to come, hopefully. The thing that, one of the major problems we had in Egypt, the lack of dialogue. As young people, we know exactly what we don't want. We don't want corruption. We don't want in democracy. We wanted, but we didn't had any source of consensus of what we want. And this need to be achieved. You need to do some sort of dialogue. And to do a dialogue, in such transitional times, with many different views, it's not an easy task, So we started as a simple initiative. Let's sit together and talk. Let's see what we want, We know exactly what we don't want, but what we want and how can we achieve it, And definitely there was so different opinions on the table, and sometimes some of it is contradicting. But to be able to achieve and conduct a civilized dialogue, and to be able to negotiate with your peers, and trying to create some sort of consensus on some major topics, and then develop this into more of a sort of road map, and these road maps need to be developed throughout policy papers, and how to get people from the far left and throughout the far right to sit together and trying to agree on some basic stuff, and this basic stuff started to develop into more details, and then you find yourself, okay, that we had this perception that we are so far from each other, but still there are many areas overlapping and many areas where we can get some sort of consensus and agree on it, and starting prioritizing this. And by that, the CCPYP was developed, and a huge umbrella for over 28 political parties. They resemble all the political spectrum in Egypt, from the far left to the far right, from the liberals to conservatives, from all the political spectrum. And we sit together, we work together, we develop policy papers together, we set priorities together. And adding to that, currently we have over 40 independent politicians who are not affiliated with any parties, but also resembling the whole spectrum of the ideologies. And this is the CCPYP simply. It's a platform for dialogue, to talk, to put ideas into action, And this was, I presume it was a unique thing, and this unique experience, as we moved on, and as we achieved some success, I believe that the leadership had some sort of confidence in us. So 6 of our colleagues were appointed as deputies for governors. Then 5 of our colleagues were running for the Senate. Then 7 of us were appointed by the President in the Senate, and now we have 28 of our colleagues running for the Parliament on the list, and 6 other of them running individually on the single mandate on different constituencies. So these are steps, step by step, you try to achieve this sort of dialogue and consensus on major topics, and agreeing on that, you start to take it into action and to start to move forward, and trying to improve the lives of the people, and trying to find some solutions. The problem before that, you know that there's something wrong, but you don't know how to fix it. and you just protest against it. And that was the mindset of the political spectrum by that time, back in 2011 to 2014. That we don't like that, we don't want that, but what we want, we didn't know exactly what we want, and how to achieve, we had no idea. And to figure this out, you need to sit down and to start to talk. You know, even if you have a fierce conversation, but by the end of the day, you agree on something, and you start to get closer to each other, and you start to melt the ice, and then you get this case like what we have now.
We'll continue in that track.
Sure.
Let me here, before we continue on, take our just next report, and we'll get back to what we ended here, because what you spoke about right now is very important.
Thank you.
Egypt continues backing youth to attain their aspirations. Let's watch.
Youth drive the country in its sacred battle to achieve more development and overcome any challenges, and Egypt has always been keen to back youth to realize their dreams. President Assisi has created a channel to communicate continuously with youth, to know their proposals on the development of the state through youth conferences and forums that make a dialogue platforms between young people and representatives of the government and its various community-based institutions on youth issues from all countries of the world in general, and the Egyptian youth in particular. President Assisi launched the Presidential Program for Qualifying Youth for Leadership, the PLP, with the aim of creating a strong and rich base of youth competencies in order to be eligible for political, administrative and community work in the country. The program launched an official website and page on the social media under the slogan "Long Live Egypt with the Power of Youth." The program is based on informing the youth of the latest theories of management and scientific and practical planning to confront the problems surrounding the Egyptian state. Graduates of the program obtain a professional academic certificate after passing the various stages of the program, which includes 3 main pivotals: political and strategic sciences, administrative sciences, and the art of leadership, social and human sciences, in addition to sports, cultural and artistic activities. The program vision includes creating and modernizing a strong and rich base of young talents who are able to take charge of political and administrative work in various fields and government sectors in a short time, where they are familiar with the latest management theories and practical and scientific planning, and their ability to apply modern methods with high efficiency, excellence, productivity, perfect cost and timing, which are being tested.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, and where we stopped in Sit and Talk. Sit and Talk, this was a very important, by the way, step that we needed very much, because it was hilarious what's going on, and everybody shouting and different demands that have been put in. We achieved nothing. It was a chaotic scene. Sit and talk.
Exactly.
Sit and talk, that has been very much translated into different actions. Part of it is, as you said, respectively, the Coordination Committee of Parties, Youth, Leadership and Politician. Part of it was the youth conferences that were held, and part of them were different programs that were assigned for different age, for different ages. Let me take here Sit and Talk from the point of youth conferences, because that, or in those conferences, we have seen things that happen for the very first time. For the very first time, important lecturers were there to let people aware of what's going on. There were even a direct conversation between the president and youth.
Exactly.
Let me take it from here.
Well, it was actually, for me, I remember back in 2016 in the first youth conference, you know, and seeing this direct dialogue between the president and the youth, actually, I never thought this would happen, you know. And I still recall it, you know, from time to time, that the head of the state just sitting there, you know, talking to the people, talking to the young people, and he listens, you know. He's just not sitting there and lecturing them, you know. And he has every right to do so, because he had this enormous and rich experience in his life, and it would be very glad, you know, for young people to learn and to hear him. But no, he was listening to the youth. It was so different, you know, from anything we ever seen before, you know. Not just listening to them. He takes notes, you know, in every youth conference. You find the president there sitting with a pen and notepad, you know, and he take notes, and he started to ask questions to the young people on the stage and to discuss with them. I remember, you know, one of the famous incidents in one of the youth conferences were held at Aswan, and one of the young people was having some complaint about some factory there and polluting the river and so on. And in the break, the president took the young people, you know, and one of these delegation was the young man who was claiming that. He took the ministers with him, the government, and they went to a field visit to this factory, you know, and they've been investigating it live on air, you know. And this is a tremendous example.
And during
you know,
the Ask the President session, we have seen very surprising questions that I have no clue that the President would take such questions, and yet the President responded in a very normal way, and that was very much what, or how did you read that? I mean, how did you see how the president is keen to answer all questions, even the very critical ones?
Well, this is what transparency is, and this is what a leadership is. Because again, if you are an elected leader, and people elected you, and you're responsible for these people, you know, and for this huge nation, sitting there and asking the questions is raising the awareness of the people and giving them, because he has nothing to hide, you know. He's not a corrupted guy like some others, you know. It's clear and it's transparent, you know. He answered the opinions. He intervened with the people, with the young guys, you know, in the youth conferences. Not even also, and not only in asking the president, but even in the sessions, you know. He interacted with them, because this is what true leadership should be. He has a clear and transparent agenda. And he's working hard to develop this country and to empower the youth, and to remove all the old barriers, you know. Since he came to power, and he has this clear, simple project, you know, to build a new and modern Egypt. And we see this achieved day by day, and this could never be achieved without being transparent, clear, honest to the nation, and of course to the youth, and interact with them. And he's willing to listen to them, you know, and he takes notes, as I've been saying, and many of the ideas that have been presented there have been achieved on the ground.
The issue is that he was not patronizing them. He was not telling them what they should do and what they should, and because we are doing that and we are doing, no. He was just simply clarifying things, and that was in itself a change. And let me from here, I take how the leadership is keen to interact with youth and make them learn more about the path of the country in order to create a kind of interaction by this segment of the society. Now, an interaction that is needed to parties on the ground. People have been wondering now, we've been for some times discussing, thinking, and what we really need from the political parties that we have on the ground. Okay. And let me see here, you were members of different parties, but we have not seen enough work by the political parties. So from your point of view, what or how should the political parties interact actively in the political scene of Egypt in this upcoming stage?
Well, the political parties, we have some sort of perception or misconcept of what political parties should do. Political parties are assembly of people who agree upon some sort of ideas, and they'd like to achieve these ideas on the ground by creating policies, by creating legislations, and therefore they run for elections, they compete with each other, and they show this to the people, and every political party should have their own agenda or their legislative agenda or their party platform or party policies. Looking back at the, since the early 70s where the multi-party system was restored, this didn't happen, effectively. For so many reasons, we don't have the time to discuss, but anyone who are interested in the political spectrum or the political history of Egypt can clearly know about it. Now, after 2014, things start to change, we see elections, we see parties compete. Many of them start to develop party programs, many of them started to develop policy papers, many of them tried to achieve some solutions. Others started to mix their role with the civil society or aid groups where they go and disperse humanitarian aid per se, or charity work per se. So what political parties should do, they should focus on making policies and making legislations to improve the people's life, and this should be achieved throughout finding solutions to the problems. That's what political parties should do. In the CCPOIP, one of the problems is that many political parties have their own policies or their own
charter, agenda,
or theories about how to solve the problem, but when it comes to a practical solution, it doesn't exist much because there is some sort of lack of information. But when you get all these people together, sit together and talk, and you start to collect, this information, you start to share the knowledge and share experiences. So you start by developing real, practical, applicable solutions. And this is what we have been doing, over the past 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. In every youth conference in the World Youth Forum, we were participating with policy papers, with solutions, with ideas about how to improving the life of the people. And this also come in a very diversified way, by the way. It's not one color, And this is something really important because you need to have several solutions, and you have to look at this the one thing with different angles, and then you start to move on and to develop the solution. So this is what we've been doing, and I believe this will continue from our colleagues in both chambers of the parliament, to take these solutions into actions, to put it into legislations, to put it into policies, to improve the people's life. Because by the end of the day, politics, it's not a luxurious item. It's not about luxury. It's about how to improve the daily life of the people. It's about the bread and butter of every single citizen in this nation.
Since you brought up the two houses, or the upper and the lower houses, you brought it up, I didn't.
Okay.
So then let me take it from your point of view. How do you view the very critical role that would be played by both houses, by the two chambers, at this very upcoming stage And what exactly is the helm that you will be carrying? It, not you, I'm
Okay.
speaking.
I understand.
Yes. At this critical time of Egypt, how do you view it, and what's your vision towards that?
Well, first of all, the two chambers are integrating. They complete each other. The Senate, it's not a fancy place where people go there and sit, chit chat and do nothing. But actually, it has a very crucial role when it comes to improving the legislating process. Many of the important and crucial legislations over the past 5 years have been issued and amended and issued and amended and amended and amended. You know, this is a very long process. And why this happened? Because there is a need for this legislation to be issued, and there is no other eye or no other board where they can take the time, have the expertise, you know, to review these legislations and make sure that it goes well, you know, and to measure the impact of this legislation. So this will help improving the legislation process, you know, and this will help people to get a clear and simple legislation with a positive impact in their lives as fast as they aspire. The other thing is the socio-economic development plan, and this is extremely important because this is where you start to reallocate the resources, trying to achieve the strategic vision of 2030, where you try to achieve the sustainability, where you're trying to achieve the SDGs, where you have been signing, you know, on it with the other countries, members of the United Nations. This is other thing, improving and embedding and deeply rooting the democracy. This is one of the very major issues we need to discuss and to talk, you know. We're in transition, and to build democracy, you don't get a recipe. There is no simple recipe for democracy, or it's not an instant coffee of sort where you unpack it and voila, you have democracy. It's a process. It's a very long process, and it's very cumulative, and it goes through the experience of each and every nation. We have to learn from others, but we still have our Egyptian context. So to improve the democratic process, to deeply rooting it. And it's not just about the ballot box, and this actually led us to a disaster back in 2012, you know, where we got that nightmare of the Brotherhood. It's not about the ballot box. It's about the process. It's about the ethics. It's about the mentality and the idea. It's about the awareness, many aspects getting into that. It's about culture itself. So how to embed this, you know, and deeply rooting it in the country. It takes a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot of work to achieve the democratic culture on the levels of the schools, on the level of syndicates, on the level of the civil society. So yes, it's a very serious job. Also, giving an opinion and the matters of international accords and peace treaties and so on. So we have a lot of work to do.
I'm so proud to have a member of the new Senate and a figure like you.
Thank you.
And we hope that you can be part of you all. You can really fulfill your aspiration and our aspirations.
I hope so, and we'll definitely work on that.
Mr. Mohammed Farid, member of the Senate, member of the Coordination Committee of Parties, Youth Leaders and Politicians, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure, and it was really good to be here.
Thank you so much, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be another important debate with another colleague. Good night.